Welcome to Lanzarote, or more specifically to the northwest of the island and Club La Santa, a sport-filled oasis in the rugged coastline of this volcanic island in the Atlantic Ocean. And here you'll find 1,600 men and women signing themselves in for one of the most demanding sporting events in the world, the Club La Santa Ironman Lanzarote, where it's said that the normal limits don't apply. Come on, at the end of the day, these folk are triathletes. Not content with doing one sport, they like to do three at a time. And here on Lanzarote, the swimming, cycling and running races are all combined to take these triathletes on a journey to mess with their senses. A 3.8 kilometre or 2-mile swim to kick us off in the temperamental waters of the Atlantic Ocean. This will be the warm-up event for our intrepid triathletes. Leaving the water, they transform into cyclists to go on a 180 kilometre romp or 112-mile spin around the island with 2,500 metres of climbing thrown in. And when they're off the bikes, it's onto their feet to run along the coastline for the full marathon distance of 26 miles or 42.2 kilometres. And then and only then can they call themselves Ironman. So you've seen what they've got to do. We're going to be here to show you the whole race and get to know some of the people who make this event truly special. We join them the day before the race at the main transition point for tomorrow's activities in Puerto del Carmen, on the southern coast of the island, where we join the triathletes as they check in their bikes and kit. As you can imagine, the kit is quite expansive. For the swim, they'll need a wetsuit, then cycling clothes and shoes, running shoes, snacks and food, hats, sunglasses. It takes as much time packing for a day's race as for a week's holiday. And it's got to be in place for tomorrow's 7 o'clock kickoff. And it's here where we meet Sharon McKinnon, wife of sports writer and broadcaster Kevin McKinnon, who's come to try Lanzarote.
I've been fortunate to travel with Kevin to a lot of the events that he's covered over the years, and the races that I have come over to, they've just been amazing. They have a different feel than the ones back home in North America. The Europeans have been very welcoming, and I don't know, they just put on a great race. So it's a wonderful experience, and I wish more of my North American training folks would make the trek over, especially to this one.
Well, for years I've been been covering Ironman events. I actually came to Lanzarote for the first time in 1998 to host a television show here. So yeah, I'd come to this beautiful spot and then spend the entire day typing on a computer and not really getting to see much of the race at all.
This year I'm finally going to line up for the start line, so I'm really excited. This race has been on my bucket list for at least a decade, and this is the year to do it, so I'm really, really excited to be here today.
Sharon had been threatening for years that she wasn't going to come back to Lanzarote unless she was doing the race, so it seemed like good timing this year.
So yeah, I know it's one of the tougher ones, but that's what it's all part of the journey and building character as an athlete when you go after these tough ones. So I'm really excited about it. This
Ironman Lanzarote is special because it started in 1992 and has remained as one of the iconic events on the series. And it truly embodies the heart of the sport, the reason we all got into this, the challenge. The moniker normal limits do not apply is perfect for this race and perfect for the heart and spirit of Ironman.
For me, it's about the physical and mental challenge that a course like this presents to you on race day. But everyone's got their own reasons for doing these crazy things. It is a bit crazy. My only worry is that Kevin's at the finish line when I'm there. That's my only worry for the day. I plan on enjoying the whole experience, and Kevin best be at the finish line when I come across.
And we're all expecting to see Sharon at the finish line at about 8 o'clock in the evening. That'll be after 13 hours pounding out a rhythm around this island. These guys have got until midnight to finish the race. That's 17 hours to cross the line. and join the list of previous Ironman finishers here on Lanzarote. A much smaller group of triathletes here have had the strength, speed and discipline to be crowned champion of this course, and 6 of those will be starting tomorrow, hoping to nail their second wins at this tough event. 2012's winner of the men's race, Victor del Corral, will be on the start line, looking for a home win, alongside 2014's champion, Romain Guillaume of France, who also won the Volcano race here a couple of weeks ago, Spain's oldest triathlete. And a woman who was on the top spot that same year, Lucy Gossage from the UK, part-time oncologist, part-time triathlete, and full-time champion. Champion in 2015, Alessandro De Gasperi from Italy will be charging for that second elusive win, hoping to make it 2 for 2. Last year's woman at the top, Denmark's Tina Holst, starting with Jessie Thomas, who outran world champion Jan Frodeno to claim his first Ironman Lanzarote title in only his second race last year. And these and many others will be taking their places on Playa Grande, that's Big Beach to you and me, in Puerto del Carmen, ready for this 7 AM start. This is another favourite for this year, Bart Arnoux from Belgium. A top tip from many of the pros in the pre-race press conferences. Lucy Gossage finding a friend, and Tina Holst contemplating a long day ahead. Victor del Corral stretching out there, and De Gasperi, very cool. Hoping no doubt to have the shortest day possible. And Celeste Castro on a 6th attempt at this race, made it to the top 3 once, would be a popular choice to claim this title. Guillaume in the silver hat, joined by Lucy Charles on the front line. The one to watch out for in the swim goes like a rocket in the water and usually comes out with the lead men. Several metres back up the beach we find the gold, silver and bronze, all world athletes. We'll start between the pros and the age groupers. Lots of first timers in the age groupers today. Coming up, the start, where they'll need all their nerves intact. We're all ready to go down at the start line. Our starter today will be HRH Princess Alexia of Greece, President of Honour and dedicated race follower. She gets the nod from Kenneth Gass, the race director, and we're away. Pros have got to be on their toes at the start as this great body of triathletes behind them gets a good 10-metre run in to hammer the pros' back doors shut. It's all ahead go now for many of the age groupers here today. This start is what they've been anticipating since they registered for the race. It marks a start at the end for many, the end of months of training just to get here, let alone the next 17 hours. Today's swim course will be 2 laps of 1.9k around the bay in front of Playa Grande. The first section is a mad dash of 160 metres to the first buoy, which has had to be set at a more obtuse angle in recent years, as it used to be a real hand sandwich of congestion in earlier editions of the race. Looking for a good position round the first buoy, we have De Gasperi in a blue cap, shadowed by Jessie Thomas in a pink hat. The faster swimmers are starting to stretch the packs out, and soon after rounding of the first buoy, they'll start to separate into distinct groups. A bit of close order swimming in that little group, including Bart Arnoux, Guillaume and Lucy Charles, and it's Lucy C there in the dark blue cap, rounding that first buoy, tucked nicely into the leading group of men. Remember last year she was only 20 seconds behind Jan Frodeno out of the water, finishing 47.12, only 22 seconds shy of Paula Newbury-Fraser's swim record, set here back in 1994, which was 46 minutes and 50. I suspect the tide was out back in 94 because that's when the men's record was set too, by Nick Croft of Australia in a mind-boggling 42.24. So, Lucy Charles leading the women's race, followed by fellow Brit Kate Coomer. Spain's Raquel Quevedo is in third, just ahead of Celeste Castro in fourth place. It's 7:15 here in Lanzarote, and as the sun catches up with us, we can have a look at the head of the school of swimmers and see Carlos Lopez setting the pace for everybody this morning, with Britain's Stephen Bayliss and Russia's Georgie Koron hot on his toes. Looking back, we find Lucy Charles less than 10 metres off the lead, setting herself up for a potentially massive lead on the bike. And just behind her we have France and Spain going shoulder to shoulder, Romain Guillaume and Peru, Alfaro San Ildefonso, Peru for short. And around the second turn we go. 920 metres down, only 2,900 to go, 225 kilometres to go until the finish line. And for some of these age groupers, these early turns are merciless. Okay, so the leaders now rounding the third of 4 turning boards and heading back to the start point, where the beach is being laid out for them to run a quick 50 metres through the crowd before jumping back in the sea and doing it all again. The Australian way, or rather exit, to give the crowd another chance to stretch their lungs and cheer on this horde of swimmers. As always, the crowd has turned out in force to watch this early morning paddle. Normally we encounter some people watching who've been up dancing all night in one of the clubs along the front. But no lights out for these guys yet as they round the last bend to end the first lap of the swim. 1.9k done in about 24.5 minutes. And first out we have Carlos Lopez, followed by Stephen Bayliss. He's been consistently at the head of these swims for the last few years. He's made it known to us that this will probably be his final Ironman Lanzarote as a pro. Big shame for me, as his name was probably one of the easiest I've ever had to pronounce. Case in point, Georgie Koron bringing up the rear of that little group. And in 6th place overall, Lucy Charles, already 2 minutes ahead of her nearest rival in the women's race. Romain Guillaume there in the silver hat, just where he wants to be according to his race plan, tucked in just behind the leaders. The next group there we have De Gasperi and Jesse, turning into a double act already. So he gets top billing by the end of the day. And just behind that group we have second woman Kate Kuma, who's 5th in Ironman Wales last year. Very strong swimmer, but next to the strokes of Lucy Charles, made to look like a bit of a beginner. Victor del Corral leading the next group out, closely followed by Filippo Castro, stomping through the soft sand beach here today. So we'll see a lot of action this little stretch of sand today, as 1,700 pairs of feet run around this prime piece of real estate to start another lap of what they've already swum. Here we are then, settled into the rhythm of the second lap. Carlos Lopez is holding the lead with Stephen Bayliss hot on his toes. Lead woman, Lucy Charles, 3rd in last year's race, in only her first race as a pro.
I mean, last year I didn't really know what to expect, so I thought I'll put in a solid swim, I'll give it my best on the bike, and then I'll just see what happens on the run. I had a bit of a run injury at the time, so I wasn't sure how well I would run anyway, so I thought I might as well put in a strong effort on the bike and get some distance and see what happens. But yeah, it didn't go too badly. Obviously I've done 2 half distances already this season, so ideally I don't want to go at that sort of pace. I'm going to have to rein it in a little bit. I probably will go fairly hard on the bike because I quite like doing that, and I like this course for kind of putting in a strong effort, but obviously it is a marathon at the end, so anything can happen. But my swim will give me quite a good distance, so if I can kind of keep that distance, not necessarily gain any distance, but just keep that time gap, then I think that'll be a pretty good sort of bench going into the run. This is only my 2nd full distance as a pro, and I feel there's still a lot of work I can do to get better. I'm still sort of juggling working as well as being a pro, so if I can kind of cut that back a little bit more, then I'd be able to put in quite a bit more work, or even just have more recovery time, which I think is a big thing as a pro athlete. So yeah, I still think there's a lot to be learned and a lot to be gained, but obviously winning these things, I'm not going to say no to that. I've been coming to Club Vicente for a good few years now, and I always look at the Sports Hall of Fame, and I know you get your picture up in there if you win, so that's a big thing for me. I'd love to have my picture up on the wall in there. So I'll be going out there to put in a strong performance, and if it's a win, then I'd be absolutely chuffed with that.
Well, Lucy's already built up a lead over the rest, 5 minutes between her and 2nd place Kuma. The leaders are on the way in. Georgie Cowron with a strong pull over the last couple of 100 metres to exit the water first, before Carlos Lopez. Peru out, Bayliss out, and on his heels Lucy Charles. In a time of 47.06, she's getting closer to that record of 46.50 all the time. And into the transition area we go. The pros looking for their bags, the same as for all the other age groupers. We'll be flowing through here for another hour or so. But the pros are all about speed, as they transform from ocean swimmers to cyclists in around 3 minutes. Every second counts at this level, and a badly packed bag or equipment failure could be costly. So Cowro, first out of the changing tent, and in his haste, he seems to be taking his bag with him. Okay. Bayliss, next out, shows how it's done, and Lopez hot on his heels in third. And with a 5-minute lead guaranteed into the beginning of the bike, Lucy Charles comes out in fourth overall. Oops, Georgie Cowro there getting a little bit eager again. Lack of experience there. He seems to be dying to do the whole thing before he's finished what he's been doing before. So Bayliss then taking the honour of leading this line of triathletes out for, like I said before, potentially the last time. Lucy Charles there in fourth place. First place in the women's race, of course, and Romain Guillaume there running out. He's just a little bit behind this chap, Peru Alfaro, who's so eager to go. He's running an extra few meters to launch himself onto his saddle and take off for the roads of Lanzarote. Romain won't be panicking too much by these fast swimmers, neither will be his teammate from U-Place, Bart Ernoux, leaving the changing tent and heading for the bikes, where we find Degasberry and Jesse, and an unfortunately placed photographer there. The last thing these guys want to be dealing with when facing 180 kilometers of road, but he's swiftly dealt with, and the boys are off. And we can have the women out now in order of speed. Here's Kate Kuma in second place. 3 minutes behind her we have Celeste Castro, and bringing up the rear of our top five we have Karine Abraham, just running down there past the bikes, a full 10 minutes after our race leader Lucy Charles, who'll be a good distance towards Puerto Calero by now. And we'll take some time here to have a quick look at the official race timings for the first 5 out of the water. We had those first 4 bunched up tightly in a group with Lucy Charles, then came Romain, a minute and a half behind. That's a lot to make up, but not forgetting, we've only seen the first 3.8k of a 225k race. So it's too early really to reveal what surprises this asphalt holds today. For many, they've got to safely negotiate that swim first before taking to the wheels. We had 3 triathletes retired during the swim, plucked out by the safety team here today. Not needing any plucking at all, here we have Sharon McKinnon. Sharon's in the 55 to 59 age group today, with 10 of the women competing for one of the Kona slots. But not everyone is competing for a specific prize today. Some people do this hardest Ironman in the world for other reasons. Meet Ingrid, originally from Paraguay.
After 22 years of marriage, I had to get divorced and start a new life. And so I went into internet. I got a lot of work offers from Lanzarote and Fuerteventura.
Good luck.
So first of all, I started in Lanzarote. When I arrived here, I got work right away in a car rental. Didn't have any apartment. Then I looked for that and everything. And then going to the gym at Producciones, I heard about Ironman stuff. And then I saw it and I said, well, if they're doing it, maybe I have it a try. Instead of training in a gym, I can train outside, you know, biking and swimming and all this stuff. So I had to learn to swim. I had to learn to bike. Didn't know anything about it. I started my first Ironman with 50 years old. 49, I decided to do it. So I finished my first one. I was so happy about it. Well, it was like, gosh, I did it myself, trained myself, went out on the bike myself, and that with 50 years. For my children right now, my son is 31 and my daughter is 28, and they're having their lives. And it's also nice for them to know that I'm doing something and they can go on with their life, and they know that I'm not depressed and being like, oh, old mommy, you know, maybe she is bored or something. So I don't know what's going to be next year. So I keep going on and doing it. And for me, Lanzarote, it's my home. and she has something. She has energy. Just going through Tingwatong, and you feel that energy from the lava there. I don't know.
Well, let's hope that the island gives Ingrid enough energy to meet us at the finish line later. Somebody who's generating some real power now, however, is Romain Guillaume, who stormed his way to the lead in 10 extremely quick kilometres in the early part of this bike ride, passing early leader Stephen Bayliss before Yaisa and leading the pack around the southernmost part of the course through the lava fields that stretch down to the sea in El Golfo. Women's leader Lucy Charles is maintaining her momentum, adding a few seconds to the early advantage she gained in the swim. Her lead is stretching, but there are some strong cyclists in the pack behind her. She'll need to keep her foot down to stay in the lead in this quality field. And while we're talking about quality, we can see Romain taking on liquid as he leaves the El Golfo loop and makes the turn north, into the wind and up to the northern tip of the island. He's followed by his teammate Bart Enu, who's adopted a similar tactic to Romain and hammered it down south, leaving El Golfo in second place. Stephen Bayliss is clinging on to third, with last year's winner Jesse Thomas hot on his tail in fourth place. In fifth and sixth at the moment we have De Gasperi and Peru Alfaro, who we see here passing Yaisa on the way to Fire Mountain, where we catch up once again with race leader Romain Guillaume. We talked to him earlier in the week, and this is some of what he told us.
Since the first time I came here 2012, I just loved the riding here, the hills, the wind, and everything here. The people are friendly. It's a triathlon island, you know, and I like it. And so it was one of my dreams to stay here for a long period. So this year I took the opportunities to be here, race the Volcano Triathlon, the Ironman, and then the 70.3 in September. Yeah, it will be a dream for me again to win the Ironman Lanzarote, but honestly this year it will be much more challenging than 2014, because 2014 was just other few big names, but nothing compared to this year. So I need to work on my good event, I will say. So I know that I improved my run, but I will never run 2:43, 44, and maybe 2:50 or 2:52, but I need some gap at the end of the bike.
Well, during that segment there was a shot of Bart, race number 20, who's closing the gap between him and Romain all the time. They're quite difficult to separate in the U-Place team colours. Romain is wearing blue shoes and Bart white, if that helps. Just behind that pair, we're with the next grouping, where De Gasperi is making a determined move to up the pace. Passing Jesse Thomas a second ago, he eases his way past Bayliss and into third place. And what's good enough for you is good enough for me. Jesse Thomas rides past Bayliss to take fourth and keep in touch with De Gasperi, 2015's champion. And somebody else with a desire to be 2017's champion, Lucy Charles, showing some real strength and determination to blow this race apart. Going through the National Park of Tim and Fire, she is a full 9 minutes of second place Kate Kuma. It's now 9:20 in the morning here on Lanzarote, which is the cut-off time for the swim. I'm afraid to say that anybody who's left in the water now is out of time and won't be permitted to race anymore today, which will, no doubt, be a blow to them to miss this stunning untamed wilderness on the southwest of Lanzarote. There's a vast lava field here, created by a series of eruptions that took place between 1730 and 1736. If you're ever here, pop into the Tim and Fire National Park, where they mount daily demonstrations to show how hot the earth here still is. You can even get some lunch cooked over a hole in the ground. Well worth a visit. With no time for stopping and visiting at all today, we race back to the front now, just past the park, and find Romain still leading from his teammate Bart Enu in second place, or second U-Place if you prefer, boom crash, followed by De Gasperi, Jesse Thomas, Stephen Bayliss, Carlos Lopez and Peru Alfaro. A few K behind them, we find Lucy Charles going so much faster on the bike than she did last year. She's been here a lot over winter, a bit of local knowledge and the ability to train year-round on this island, proving to be a boost for our young leader. We're off to Famara now, 80k into the bike, the best surfing beach on Lanzarote with 6 kilometers of sand acting as a collection point for the North Atlantic swells. Another similarity people draw between here and Hawaii, and like Hawaii, we're chock full of triathletes here today. That was Romain and Guillaume riding through the aid station next to the beach today, followed by Bart Ernu. In third place now, Jesse Thomas, who's struggling to connect with any water bottles. He's missed another one, XXVI next, followed by Peru, who's also not having the easiest time filling up. And this is probably where they'll need it the most, because here we leave sea level once more and start a series of climbs to get us up to the highest points on the course. The first section is probably the easiest of the climbing sections, as the guys swing back inland and feel the wind on their backs for the first time in a while. At this point, we'll interrupt the spinning session to ask last year's champion Jesse Thomas his impressions of this infamous bike course.
It's awesome. Just riding the course a little bit the last few days, like I was reminded why I really enjoyed this race. The win was cool, but it just is a really fun course, and so it's cool to be back. To be honest, like I really love being out there. Like I would much rather ride 112 miles with 9,000 feet of climbing or whatever Lanzarote is than go do 3 laps of pancake flat, roads through whatever. This is beautiful. Like I have had a blast just riding easy, quote unquote easy, trying to just preview the course again, and that makes it fun. That makes the day enjoyable and worth it, regardless of the competition and the pain and everything else. Like you're legitimately enjoying being out there on your bike, which is cool.
Well, we're all for people enjoying their time on a bike, but we're not too sure if Romain's enjoying his time too much at the moment on his bike. But Ernu is gradually reeling him in, and by the halfway point, 90 kilometers into the race, at the old island capital of XXVI, Bart has closed the gap to be within shouting distance of his teammate. We emerge from the town and find Romain riding along below the battlements of the castle of Santa Barbara, no doubt feeling a bit besieged with Bart all over his back door. The islanders used to flee to this castle to escape marauding pirates who used to frequently stop off at this island looking for treasure. And someone else looking for treasure today, our lead woman Lucy Charles, goes through the aid station in Famara. She's getting closer to her first prize check of $5,000 if she can maintain her pace. I wouldn't bet against her. But now in second place, Jean Colon has no doubt got her eyes on that same prize. She's had previous second places in Nice, Lake Tahoe and Wales, where she finished in 10:02. She's no slouch. Lucy can't take anything for granted today. And indeed, nobody can. The line of triathletes now stretches back to the National Park of Timofaya. There's a thin line of lycra stretching back for 50 kilometers over the roads of Lanzarote, which have been closed today to allow this race to flow as freely as possible. The vast majority of islanders welcome the race and its competitors with open arms. Sports tourism has turned into good business on the island, a major part of which arrived with the Ironman race, brought here by race director Kenneth Gask back in 1992, and still going strongly in its 26th edition here today. We'll leave those age groups in XXVI and head back to the leaders. The white shoes of Bart now a few meters ahead of Romain's blues as they start the climb to the highest point of the course at Los Nieves, literally translated as the snow. 600 meters above sea level, and no dangerous snow today for third place Jesse Thomas and Alessandro XXVI, currently in fourth. And here with some words to explain why Lanzarote drags him back to race.
Yeah, Lanzarote is one of the mythic race of Ironman. I think one of the older, and El Masdur also is a very tough race, and yeah, not easy. It's Ironman. Yeah, I feel very good this year, and be here in Lanzarote is always a pleasure. I like very much the place. I train here many years since I was in a junior categories with the national Italian team. I'm pretty confident about my race. Maybe I don't have a super fast pace on the bike, but I lost probably a little bit of speed in the run. So I will try to be more push harder with the bike this year, maybe. Yeah.
He's pushing hard on the bike at the moment, but he's still got a lot of push left to do to catch the U-Place boys, who are diving down the S-bends into Iria now, the town of 10,000 palms and the only place with shade until these triathletes land back in transition. Still climbing to Las Nieves, Lucy Charles. She's got a very good time on her hands if she maintains this pace. Meanwhile, joining the top three, we have the other Lucy, Lucy Gossage. She's got a picture on a wall in a Hall of Fame, and we caught up with her earlier in the week, and she had this to say, among other things.
You're riding around, and it's breathtaking, the scenery. The bike's really interesting. It's, you know, there's nothing boring. You're either up, you're either down, you're going around corners. It's windy. It's you're racing. Yeah, it's just such an iconic race, and the tougher the better, I think, in lots of ways for me. Well, I guess I'm a kind of accidental pro, and I would say I have a bit of talent, but most of it I think is my head, and I think that's probably why the grittier the better. Yeah, I think I've proven to myself I cope well, particularly when things are going tough. Yeah, I broke my collarbone just before Kona, and that actually was a real blessing, it turned out. So, well, obviously at the time, it was 8 weeks before. Obviously at the time it was, you know, it felt like it was the end of the world, because I knew it was going to be my last Kona probably as a pro, and I was going back to work afterwards. But actually what it did was take all the pressure off. So I went there as a complete underdog. It meant that I didn't care on the bike when, you know, halfway round Mum was going, well done, and I was in 20th, and I was like, I'm riding like a beast, and so I didn't worry about where I was. I wasn't chasing a time. So I think having no pressure actually meant that I did, you know, potentially did better than I would have done without the collarbone. And I think it taught me that you can be not in your best physical shape, but perform beyond that if your head's in the right place.
Her head must be pretty much in the right place. There's only this woman, Jean Collon, is between her and other Lucy, Lucy Charles, who is tearing up the books today to be on course for a record time. A little bit away from record pace, but still fast enough to be leading everybody up the final big hill at Mirador del Rio. Bart Ernoux, now a minute ahead of Romain Guillaume, who in turn is nearly 4 minutes ahead of Jessie, who's riding along in third. And that's 80 kilometers an hour, if you can't see it clearly. The reward for all that uphill slog, and Romain is getting as much speed out this 10k downhill as his body and gravity will allow. We spoke to Mario van Hoorniker a few weeks ago, who was also signed up to be racing today, and he preferred doing this particular section of the course in reverse while training. Who's to say the race would have been different had he been here? But he's not, and we are. Here with Bart Ernoux belting down the home straight back to Puerto del Carmen and T2. Meanwhile, back in Mirador del Rio, Lucy Charles has finished 120k on the bike and built up a commanding lead of some 19 minutes over Lucy Gossage, currently in third. But no doubt enjoying the views from Lanzarote over to the 8th Canary Island, La Graciosa. Triathlon's taken off so much in these islands that once peaceful island hosts an off-road triathlon every year. Number 519, Sharon McKinnon, forging ahead of some of these big, strong triathletes as she leads a charge of the 55 to 59-year-old women. Still smiling though, unlike this chap unfortunately. A fate shared, we've heard, by Soleta Castro, a favourite for a podium finish today, losing 15 minutes on the El Golfo loop because of an unfortunate puncture. We're at the special feed station here at Mirador del Rio, a little oasis of calm for our triathletes on the top of the Nieves Hill, where they can recharge for a minute should they need to, with bags that they pack themselves, with whatever rocket fuel they need to carry them through this raw and beautiful island. Going back to that news there from Celeste Castro, those 15 minutes, obviously, yes, they could be the dream of the podium place disappearing today. But we saw the same thing back in 2009 when Canadian Tara Norton also suffered a loss due to 15 minutes spent on the side of the road trying to unstick an overglued tyre. That was a blow, but the following year Tara returned and smashed the bike record. Her time of 5 hours 26 is still standing today, but it is in danger of falling if Lucy Charles continues at the pace she's currently keeping. So, as the age groupers are making their way down from the cliff top, we leap ahead to the leaders, where we find Romain and Guillaume hanging on in second place behind Bart Ernu, who's enjoying the last few K of open road before heading back to T2 and his date with the marathon. Peru and De Gasperi riding into contention for the podium, riding at 4 and 5. And there's number 3, today's number 1, Jessie Thomas, taking a final look through the volcanoes before diving down back to the coast and to T2, where we find Bart Ernu gliding down this last gentle slope to mark the end of his 180k tour of the island and officially open T2 to the triathlon traffic. Fastest bike split of the day belongs to Bart, completing his trek in 4 hours 48.23. That's 7.5 minutes slower than the men's record for this course, which belongs to Mike Twelsig with a time of 4:40.58 set back in 2010. But it's fast enough to be in the lead at this point by 29 seconds over second place Romain Guillaume, who crosses into T2 with a combined time of 5 hours 42.43 after bike and swim. They've got time for a quick catch up in the changing tent as they put on their running shoes and prepare for the marathon. They've got about 5 minutes grace before Jessie Thomas arrives in T2, but don't forget his marathon time last year was 2:47, or 2:46.57 to be precise. Romain's championship race finished with him running a 2:57 marathon. Nobody's places are secure yet, as we've still got 42k of running to go before we get to the finish line. And as Jessie Thomas enters transition, you can not only feel the heat but see it. It's 10 to 1, midday. We should all be having a siesta. De Gasperi in third place, closely followed by Bennett of France. Enters T2, but Jessie Thomas dumps his bag and re-enters the race. Peru Alfaro, next man in on the bike. But back at the changing tent, Jessie is on his way back in. What on earth? He goes back in his bag. He must have forgotten something. And it's his sunglasses. Okay, he will need them to run through this midday sun, but he's lost nearly a minute while completing that little manoeuvre. A minute which could prove very expensive indeed as we welcome all these top men back into the fray and onto the streets of Lanzarote once more to run the marathon, at the end of which we'll know who is Ironman Lanzarote 2017 champion.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, as always, number 3, winner in 2015, Alessandro Bennett, all the way from Italy.
So while the leaders are running, we still have 1,500 cyclists still out on the roads. At the moment riding through La Heria, a long valley once described as the lifeline of Lanzarote. The black stones, pecan they're called, trap water and draw it down to the rich volcanic soil beneath to give life to the vines, which hide behind walls to stay out of the wind. It marks a 10k left point. You come out of here and it's a long downhill all the way back to T2 on the seafront in Puerto del Carmen, which is where we find Lucy Charles, unbelievably 18 minutes ahead of her nearest rival. Speaking of which, the identity of her nearest rival is being decided right now between Lucy Gossage and John Colon. John came out of the water 2.5 minutes before Lucy Gossage today, and it's taken her 175 kilometers to catch her up. The next lady in her sights, Lucy Charles, 20 minutes faster into T2, but Lucy G's previous marathon time here was 20 minutes faster than Lucy Charles. We could have a race on, who knows how much speed she's got left after destroying that bike course and making a new course record with a blistering 5 hours 23:30. 25 minutes faster than she did it last year. Her time in a marathon last year, incidentally, was 3:27. Lucy Gossage's winning time in 2014 was 3:07. So, here we have Lucy and John running out onto the streets of Puerto del Carmen. And in fourth, she's been there all day long, Corinne Abraham enters transition in fourth place. Meanwhile, Bart Ernoult leads the race onto the streets of Arrecife, the island's capital, the first time the marathon has been all that way for 20 years. We're approaching the 15k point of the run and Romain's struggling. Jesse Thomas is still running in third, but losing time every kilometre to this man, Alessandro De Gasperi, in fourth. The crowd have turned out around the Charco San Ynez to cheer these triathletes on. Bart's not slowing down as he romps past the lunchtime diners and heads back west. Struggling now, in second, Romain is starting to get stomach cramps, bad stomach cramps by the look of it, and by the end of his run around El Charco, he's slowed down to a crawl as his stomach starts complaining for real. This looks like the end of Romain's attempt at his second Ironman Lanzarote. And indeed, just beyond the aid station, Romain is inside the bathroom in the police station as Jesse runs himself into second place. Last year's champion's got to find another gear though if he wants to be 2017 champion. He's staying more or less 7 minutes behind Bart at the same pace, but with only 25k to go, unless Bart spectacularly explodes, it looks like the rest of the men will be left fighting for supporting roles today. And indeed, on a charge is Italian De Gasperi, Alessandro De Gasperi, chipping away at Bart's lead and overhauling Jesse to move into second place. He's currently running a few seconds faster per kilometre than Bart, but can he get his maths right and catch up to Bart, who's now hit the second turn point and is beginning his final 10k and possibly the final home straight before lifting his first Ironman Lanzarote title. But truly anything can happen during these final 10 kilometres of this race. We've seen people lose on the last 10 kilometres before. His teammate and companion for much of the cycle, Romain Guillaume, is really struggling to hang on in there. And there we go. He's slipping further down the list as he's passed by Peru Alfaro through the last aid station on the first lap. There are still 13 kilometres to go. Can he hang on to the prize purse for 5th place? And can Jesse keep hold of his 3rd place in front of a strong running Peru? That minute he took to double back for his glasses could yet prove decisive. But someone with several minutes to spare and still comfortably in front of a 2nd and 3rd place women, we have our new bike record holder, Lucy Charles. She's maintaining her pace ahead of Colon and Gossage, but 4th woman, Corinne Abraham, is flying. The 40-year-old pro is running 20 seconds a kilometre faster than Lucy Charles, but having come out the water 10 minutes behind and 14 minutes down on a bike to Lucy, it's not impossible, but unlikely that she can catch the leader. But before the Arrecife turning point, she runs past Jean Colon and Lucy Gossage and into the current runner-up place, making that final manoeuvre around Lucy there in front of Playa Reducto, Arrecife's town beach. Blue sky, turquoise sea and golden sand. This Ironman Triathlon Series knows how to throw temptation in the faces of these guys. Now that's Corinne. She seems to be running with something in her hands there. Bella Baelish used to do that too. Running with gel tubes helps to concentrate, she used to say. Well, whatever it does, it's helping Corinne to the front end of this race as it winds around this brand new addition to the marathon course, the sheltered lagoon of Charco San Ynez. In older times, it was full of little fishing boats sheltered by the reef that this city was named after, Arrecife, literally Spanish for reef. The walled lagoon is now ringed by restaurants rather than fishing huts and has provided a place where many spectators have chosen to watch the race go by while they munch on fresh fish and tapas washed down with some of the local wine. It's a hard life for some people. Probably something that these guys running would agree with right now. But the hard work is over for this man, Bart Ernoult. He took the lead at the 100k point on the bike and hasn't looked back since. The 33-year-old Belgian joins countrymen Dirk van Gossen and Bert Jamar on a roll call of champions of Ironman Lanzarote. He's done it with the 50:34 swim, the fastest bike of the day at 4 hours 48 and the second fastest run of the day with 2 hours 48 to give him a stunning race time of 8 hours 34 minutes and 13 seconds. The second fastest time on this course ever. One could actually argue that it's the fastest time ever on this actual course with its new running segment, an incredible performance by 2017's champion, Bart Ernoult. And in second place, 9 minutes behind Bart, we have 2015's champion, Alessandro De Gasperi. He ran the fastest marathon of the day with a 2:47.40, but in the end, it wasn't to be. And 6 minutes later, last year's winner, American Jesse Thomas, crosses the line to take third place. A well-deserved fourth place for Peru Alfaro San Ildefonso, and holding on with his final reserves of energy to fall through the finish line in fifth place after 3 hours 11 minutes of hell out on the marathon course, Romain Guillaume. And while Romain's recovering, we can have a look at the final results. And we can see that on another day, any one of these times would have been good enough to win this race. But in 2017, Bart Ernoux was the man who stole the crown. Let's pop behind the finish line and see what the new champion has to say.
No, yeah, I had a really good swim. Yeah, usually in Ironman my swim is okay, especially in the ocean swim. But I mean, this race, it's not the most important discipline to swim here, because it starts all after 2.5 hours on the bike. Right. That's where it really starts to hurt for a lot of people. For me as well, but yeah, I had a really good day today and I felt good. I took some, I mean, not a big risk, but usually I can count on my marathon. It felt really warm, and I think yeah, everybody struggled a bit at the end of the marathon. I think it also shows on how the people finish. It just means it's a hard race. Doesn't matter if it's windy or not. It's gonna be always a hard race, but I know the island, so I knew what to expect from the race. And yeah, you need to be solid in all three disciplines, and I think that's what I did today, so I'm happy.
Well, solid in all three disciplines is exactly what our leading lady has been today, with a record teasing 47.06 in a swim, followed by a record-breaking 5:23.29 on the bike and a steady 3:18 marathon. We get to welcome another brand new champion across the line and straight onto the wall of fame in Club La Santa, Lucy Charles, Ironman champion of Lanzarote with a total time of 9 hours 35.40. 9 minutes, only 9 minutes away from Paulie Newby-Fraser's course record from 1995, but still, she's knocked a monstrous 35 minutes off a time from last year. At only 24 years old, and only a year into her professional career, she's just become the third fastest woman on this island at this distance. I think we will see great things from this woman in the future. And in second place, another fast time from British woman Corinne Abraham, 9 hours 44. 7 minutes faster than she totaled in 2014 to get third place. Today she's one better, and she's our first runner-up, second place Corinne Abraham. And clinging on to third, a very emotional Lucy Gossage completes an outstanding 1-2-3 for Britain. These British women are very good at this job. 5 winners in the last 10 years of being British. Remarkable. And in fourth, French woman Jean Calonne holds on to walk across the line ahead of local favourite Celeta Castro, who's made the top 5 despite spending 15 frustrating minutes on the side of the road down in El Golfo with a puncture this morning. Let's take a few seconds to check out the official final standings in this record-breaking women's race, and we can see just how expensive those 15 minutes were for Celeta today. But the story of the day, young lady Lucy Charles has thrown down the gauntlet to the rest of the world. Let's see what she's got to say.
Well, my Garmin actually died on the run, so I got to halfway and then I had to just go by feel because I just got a black screen. So yeah, well, it's pretty useless if it dies, so it's not really worth wearing. The bike for a long time has been my weakest discipline. I've put in a hell of a lot of work to try and make it better. Yeah, I mean, I never really fancy the run at the end of an Ironman, so if you can make a big gap on the bike, it makes life a bit easier on the run.
So with our pros all medalled up and walking away, we have a small matter of 1,500 age groupers left to cross the line and complete their own individual Ironman journeys. And not only completing her bucket list Ironman race, we see Sharon McKinnon crossing the line in 12 hours 53.15 in position to win her age group and reserve a place to go to the World Championships in Kona this October. And of course, Kevin was there to meet her at the finish line. Many individual goals were reached and smashed today, and many dreams have come true. Unfortunately, many nightmares have come true as well, as a number of triathletes won't be making it to the finish line today, DNFing somewhere on this 225k assault on the senses. But one person keeping a finishing record at 100%, we were there to welcome Ingrid Arning across the line in 16 hours, 41 minutes and 48 seconds. As she said at the beginning, speed isn't everything, and this young 58-year-old has won once more the right to call herself an Ironman Lanzarote finisher, the ones to whom the normal limits don't apply.